question of the hour: is a constitutional crisis now officially upon us? From the invocation of an 18th century law that was the basis for some of the darkest chapters in America's history, things like the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II, now being used to deport hundreds of people, to the sudden removal of an immigrant doctor here legally, both moves seemingly from what we know at this hour, at the time in open defiance of court orders. A series of developments over the last 48 hours point to a Trump administration acting as though it is now unencumbered by the law and things like court rulings. In just an hour from right now, federal judge James Boasberg will hold a hearing on whether the Trump administration violated his ruling when it deported hundreds of Venezuelan migrants to a prison camp in El Salvador. They were deported after Donald Trump invoked the 1798 Alien Enemies Act on Saturday afternoon. Of that, NPR reports this, quote, "The Alien Enemies Act allows an expedited removal process, which means those subject to the president's declaration would not go through the normal immigration proceedings in court or be able to claim asylum. The proclamation also leaves no time to contest the government's claims that people are members of a criminal gang. The executive order invoking the law was challenged in court immediately, and the judge was crystal clear in his order putting a stop to the deportations under the Alien Enemies Act." Again from the judge, Judge Boasberg said this, quote, "You shall inform your clients of this immediately, and that any plane containing these folks that is going to take off or is in the air needs to be returned to the U.S. But those people need to be returned to the United States. However that's accomplished, whether turning around a plane or not embarking anyone on the plane, or those people covered by this on the plane, I leave to you. But this is something that you need to make sure is complied with immediately," end quote. Could not be clearer. Turn the planes around. The people do not get off the planes. And yet, again, from everything we know at this hour, those migrants deported under that law appear to have been deported anyway. According to flight records reviewed by the Washington Post, quote, 2 flights left Harlingen, Texas for El Salvador as the federal judge was reviewing the case. And a 3rd flight left shortly after a written order was issued. The president of El Salvador, a staunch ally of Donald Trump's, seemed to mock the judge's order in a tweet on Sunday, quote, "Oopsie, ... too late," end quote. America's Secretary of State, one-time Senator Marco Rubio, shared that post. The White House, which alleges that the migrants deported were gang members, denies defying any judge, but they also claim that no judge has a right to order a stop to the deportation of hundreds of Venezuelan immigrants to a prison camp in El Salvador. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said in a statement, quote, "A single judge in a single city cannot direct the movements of an aircraft carrying foreign alien terrorists who were physically expelled from the U.S. soil," end quote. And there is more defiance of the courts to tell you about. It's the second such incident in as many days of the Trump administration appearing again, based on everything we know, to ignore explicit court rulings on immigration. The Trump administration this weekend also deported a doctor, Dr. Rasha Alawi. She is a kidney transplant specialist and a Brown University professor. She was here in the U.S. on a visa, a legal visa. That's despite a judge's order demanding 48 hours notice before moving her, with an explanation as to why she was being moved. On this, the New York Times reports, quote, "There is a shortage of American doctors working in Dr. Alawi's area of specialty, transplant nephrology. Foreign-born physicians play an important role in the field, according to experts. Fear over immigration status could, quote, harm the pipeline even more," end quote. That's according to Dr. George Bayless, who works in the Brown Medicine kidney transplant program with Dr. Alawi. Her patients included individuals awaiting transplants and those dealing with the complex conditions that can occur after a transplant. He called Dr. Alawi, quote, "a very talented, very thoughtful physician. We are all outraged," he added, "and none of us know why this happened." So as to why it happened, according to documents filed in court, officials with Customs and Border Protection say that Dr. Alawi had photos and videos of Hezbollah on her phone. that she attended the funeral of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah and admitted to following his teachings, quote, from a religious perspective, end quote. As to why she was deported despite a court order, Politico reports this, quote, in a sworn declaration filed with the court that CBP officials at Boston's Logan Airport hadn't received formal notification of the court order through official channels before Alawi was put on an Air France flight bound for Paris Friday night. This is where we start today with some of our favorite experts and friends. New York Times legal correspondent Matthias Schwartz joins us. Also here, immigration policy expert Andrea Flores, Vice President for Immigration Policy and Campaigns at Forward U.S. And with me at the table, former top official at the Department of Justice, MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissman's here. Andrew, let me actually ask you to take on the question that we started with. Is a constitutional crisis upon us?
The answer is yes, although the one thing I will say is that in the court filings, let's leave aside what we're hearing from the White House and people who are sort of cutouts of the White House, because that's where there definitely is a constitutional crisis. In the court filings, the Department of Justice is trying to, although it's as tenuous and as, I think, implausible as possible, to say why they didn't violate the court's order. And they have a number of reasons, and they're actually trying to avoid ever going back to Judge Boasberg, who, by the way, is the chief judge in D.C. I mean, he is the head lawyer for that court overseeing this. And he has a hearing at 5 o'clock, presumably, to decide this issue of contempt. So I would say the Department of Justice is trying to thread a very, very, very small needle. I'm more concerned by the statements coming from that you did the clip of the press secretary saying no judge can do this. I'm sorry, who on God's green earth is she to say that? That's what the courts are for. Pam Bondi said that she's free to criticize the judge in terms of she thinks he's wrong. She is saying that we're appealing it. All of that is fair game.
Right.
But she went further. And she said that he is, by his ruling, supporting terrorists. That is the first line of her statement. That is from the Attorney General of the United States. And so, to me, it's those comments that are leading to that constitutional crisis. That is just not how you speak, whether you're the head law enforcement officer or anyone else in the government. Fair game is to criticize the judge, and appeal. And they have appealed, and that's their right. And they may win and they may lose. That's sort of separate. That's a separate issue. Just to be clear on the merits of this, Judge Boasberg on the Alien Enemies Act has substantial grounds to support what he did. That's very much going to get into the weeds. But let's just say, even if you thought reasonable minds could differ, who says because you've said the government doesn't have a statutory basis to do something and you say you can't do it, that means that you are siding with terrorists? And by the way, they have not been determined to be terrorists. As you noted at the outset, there's been no hearing on that. And of all people to be understanding of defendants' rights and the right to a hearing, and that you shouldn't take executive action as being the end-all and be-all, it should be defendant Donald Trump. He was a defendant in 4 criminal cases. If there's anybody who should know and understand and respect due process of law, it should be him, because he was himself protected by it.
Let me just clarify a legal question. I feel like what you're sort of saying without saying is that there was a lawful way, most likely, to deport these individuals. That what he's done by doing it in defiance of a court order is almost mixed two principles here. One is his absolute authority on deportations, but the second is both the defiance of a court order and the incredible smear against the judge that called for them to stop.
I guess I'm saying a little less than that. I actually am not going as far to say that there was a lawful way to do this. Judge Boasberg said under the statute doesn't apply, and so that will get litigated. The backup argument that the government's now making and is trying to say why they were not in defiance is they said, OK, I understand that you said we couldn't do this under the statute, but we actually could do it under the president's inherent Article 2 power. That's an argument. We don't know what the Supreme Court will do with it. I think it's a tough argument, but at least it's a way of trying to go through this little needle of saying we didn't actually violate your order, Judge, because we were acting under the Constitution, not under the statute, which was all that was challenged.